Is it 9 a.m.? Well, welcome. It's 9 a.m. and I'd like to call the November 3rd, 2020 City Council meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Dave Line?
Yes, here.
Soldner?
Here.
Bagwell?
Here.
Garza?
Here.
Pyros de Carvalho?
Here.
Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This morning's prayer will be given by Pastor David Dubovich. Thank you.
Let's go to God in prayer as we thank God for this beautiful morning that we each have had a good night's rest, and we are beginning our day together. Let's pray. God of justice and mercy, we thank you for the gift of life and the opportunity to serve the people of our city. Help us to act with character and conviction. Help us to listen with understanding and goodwill. Help us to speak with charity and restraint, but give us a spirit of service. Remind us, O God, that we are stewards of your authority. Guide us to be the leaders your people need. Help us see the humanity and dignity of those who disagree with us, and to treat all persons, no matter how weak or poor, with the reverence your creation deserves. Lord God, as we are in the midst of elections today, we seek to better understand the issues and concerns that confront our city, our state, our country, and how the gospel compels us to respond as faithful citizens in our community. We ask for eyes that are free from blindness so that we might see each other as brothers and sisters, one and equal in dignity, especially those who are victims of abuse, of violence, and poverty. O God, we ask for ears that will hear the cries of children unborn and those abandoned, men and women oppressed because of race or creed, religion or gender. And we ask for minds and hearts that are open to hearing the voice of leaders who will bring us closer to your kingdom. We pray for discernment so that we may choose leaders who hear your word, O God, live your love, and keep in the ways of your truth as they follow in the steps of Jesus and his apostles and guide us to your kingdom of justice and peace. We ask all this in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, and through the power of the Holy Spirit we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so very much. Next item, please.
Item 4, oral communications from the audience.
Before we begin oral communications, I wanted to bring something up that a constituent reached out to me about, and I thought it was a good point. In our oral communications section of the meeting, we require people to state their name and address. I assume stating their address fits the purpose of allowing us to know whether or not they are an actual constituent of the city of Hutchinson. But in this very divisive atmosphere, this particular person said she would not speak at a council meeting because she didn't want to give her address. She didn't feel safe doing so. I thought a good compromise might be to state either your zip code or which council district you're in, or maybe even just that you live in the city of Hutchinson. I didn't know if there were anything that would, any protocols that would prohibit limiting it that way, or if the council thought that was a good idea.
That's your call.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, we're going to leave it up to you, Mayor.
Okay. Well, I'm fine with that. I do think it's important that we hear from people within the city and not be overly, I guess, lobbied by issues that don't concern us outside of the city. But I thought it was a valid concern. So if you would like to speak before the council, please come to the podium, state your name, and if you are a resident of the city of Hutchinson, and limit your comments to 5 minutes. Keep all remarks respectful, please. Is there anyone who would like to address the council?
My name is Lavella Kelly, and I definitely live in the city of Hutchinson, only just barely. I actually am here to find out if there's any follow-up to the discussion we had regarding Orchard Park.
Well,
Because since then, we've heard nothing about it.
you're in luck because I think I see Justin Combs. I'm not sure. Is that Justin? I can't tell with your mask.
Good morning, Justin Combs, Director of Parks and Facilities. The way we last left this is Chief Hooper is working on filling those 2 or 3 positions, 2 positions for the Park Patrol. Once we have those folks on board, then we'll start that community engagement process with those individuals and the training with those individuals. So,
Okay.
Chief, maybe you can speak on where you're at in that hiring process.
Jeff Hooper, Chief of Police. Yes, we are in the process of hiring those PSAs, still working with Human Resources on that. We did have 15 applicants come in
Oh, wow.
for those positions, and some very qualified applicants. So I think we're starting our interview process either later this week or the first of next week to fill those positions. But as promised, I do still have 5 PSAs on staff. And we have started intermittent park patrol as time allows for the staffing that we do have. So we're not full-time, but we've managed to do some of the patrols in the evenings. And so that's been really well received. People have stopped our patrols and thanked us for being there. And so it's too early to really let you know what the overall result of that is going to be, but we'll ramp that up as we start to put more personnel on.
Thank you. Do you have any ETA for when those people will be onboarded and start a full-time?
As soon as, I don't, we're probably looking at a couple weeks probably to get them onboarded and hired, and then at least a couple weeks of training, maybe a little bit longer. So I'm hopeful, middle of December, perhaps we can have them on full-time, but certainly by the first of the year.
Fantastic. Maybe we could issue a news release about that so the neighbors are aware that we've started that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Certainly.
Thank you so much for your work on that. And Lavella, thank you for keeping us on top of better communication.
Well, I was just curious because I hadn't heard any more about it.
Yeah.
And appreciate it because although it isn't as bad because of the cold weather, it is still an obvious problem.
Okay. Well,
Thanks.
thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to come. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to address the council?
Yes, I'm Teresa Preston, 67502. I wanted to bring to you today the new sculptures that we have placed in Hutchinson. I have a brochure, and I also have comments from the juror that chose the Award of Excellence. Am I able to hand them to you, or would you rather have me leave them with Linda?
Oh, you can leave them with Linda and she can
Okay.
pass them down, or that'd be great. Thank you.
Can you guys see that? Okay. So this is our first one. You can see it's at 7th and Main. This is by Revan Swanson. She's from Colorado, and this is the 3rd or 4th sculpture we've actually had from her. I guess I should say Dancing Aspens. The second one we have is Fire Dancer, Jody Bliss. She's also participated in our sculpture walk a couple times, and she's from Monument, Colorado. Well, you can see the location there, right in front of the Wiley Building. The next one is our newest one, Genesis 9 by Nancy Boyle, and she lives in Wichita, Kansas. So I know a lot of people have said, why don't we have more local art? And I answered them by saying we do have some people from Kansas who enter. So this is Here Comes the Sunset by Ben Pierce. This is the one that you see that Alex Potter chose for the Award of Excellence. And so I've sent him notification, and he was awarded $1,000 for that achievement. And this is at Avenue A Park. Illusory Control by Jennifer Cannon. I believe this is the first time that Jennifer has participated, but we're excited to have her coming all the way from California. And I believe HCC has one of her works on campus now as well. Ben Pierce, this is Lineage. We were able to have Lineage come here because of COVID. He was not able to deliver this to where was supposed to go. And we had chosen it, and he had said, oh, well, it's already going somewhere else. But by the time we were able to get our sculptures, he said, well, I can't go there. Do you still want it? So we took it. So we were happy to have that. Roland Karg has participated, I think, almost every year. This one is called Miller 1. And Sue Quinlan has also joined our Sculpture Art Walk more than once. This is Rise of the Maiden. And this particular sculpture, Tony Flores actually approached us and asked us if we would like to put it out in front of his place of business. We were excited to share it with the public, and so he has signed the agreement with the city of Hutchinson, and we get to keep it as long as we want it or as long as he wants it to be there. So we're excited to have this Charo Firo by Hardcore Fab. Oh, of course, our new mural from Make It Greater Hutchinson. And so this is located at 3rd and Main. We asked that it have something to do with the Santa Fe district, and this is what we came up with. We're excited about that grant, and we hope to write one again for next year and continue to paint Hutchinson beautiful. Thank you. Have any questions for me, or?
Well, I see on the back of the flyer is a list of supporters, and are these all private donors who have made this sculpture
We are
walk?
funded by private donors, and this was the last call that we did as a money raiser, and so we've listed them this year. We
well,
try to do that every year.
Yeah, a big
the most
thanks
recent
to
ones.
them and to you and your board for making this happen.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else in the audience who would like to address the council?
Hi, my name's Teresa Delgado, 67501. And I guess I wanted to bring to light some issues from this weekend. So, as you all know, we did a Black Lives Matter march down Main before. And there was a lot of, I would like to call it fear-mongering going on when we did that, very publicly. And so we also know that this Trump parade was held over this past weekend, correct? And that parade almost caused several wrecks. It caused several wrecks that I had seen. They were blocking traffic, not to mention yelling racial slurs, and we'll get more into that in a moment. And the way it was handled by Chief Hooper and the rest of the police force kind of bothered me. It didn't kind of bother me, it really bothered me. Somebody apparently called them out there when we were protesting, and this is after we had been physically attacked out there. And if you'd seen the video, there's viral videos everywhere. They are facing us and threatening to arrest us. One of the officers was actually turning around laughing and joking with the people on the other side, and then would turn around and continue to threaten us. So that was a big issue for me. My whole thing is accountability. During the Black Lives Matter rally at the courthouse, Chief Hooper spoke on accountability and how he was going to hold himself accountable and about things that were going to change in the community, and we have yet to see that. And I would also like to speak, I'd seen a comment by Rebecca from Hutch and Harmony, and she had commented about how sad it was to see what this election had brought out in our community. And my question is, where have we all been? Because it's been here. This isn't a new thing. This race issue isn't a new thing. We shouldn't have to sit there and have to be called monkeys along with other racial slurs, be physically attacked because we're protesting, And not to mention they were chanting "Build the Wall" at me. So that was cute as well. So, but like I said, my question is, where have we all been that we're ignoring this issue in our community?
Hello, Miss Teresa, Sarah Bagwell. I would like to say that your behavior on accountability did a very big disservice to your cause that you were trying to promote. You started off with naming the event Stopping White Supremacy, One Trump Rally at a Time. So you directly insulted.
Is this including my 5 minutes, what you're speaking right now?
No, it is not.
Okay, I was just wondering.
I patiently listened to you. You can patiently listen to me for a moment. You directly insulted a population of people who are using their right to vote and support and do a patriotic page just by the title in your initial protest is a form of profiling, something that you yourself would probably not agree with. And then on the same note, you used hateful language, derogatory language, on top of the fact that you talked about your cough was from smoking marijuana, that you were hung over, and one of your people also said that they didn't care if they killed a racist, and then you're saying that all Trump people are racist.
I did not hear that last part when I was
It's
out
on
there.
the video because I actually went through and watched all of your videos that I could find prior to this meeting because I knew that you were going to be here. Now, me and my family went to the Trump parade. We didn't go to the barbecue afterwards because we didn't want to participate in a large group gathering. Okay, so we participated in our cars, stayed in our cars, and there was a few people that, when we went by with my children, were yelling obscenities at my child as we were going through the car, and another car driving back and forth between the parade, flipping people off, okay? And my son went to go and say, Biden sucks, okay? And I stopped him, and I said, Liam, look, everybody's entitled to your opinion, but you don't ever fight hate with hate. Take this opportunity to pray for that person so that the Lord may help guide them to a better cause. So what I'm saying here is when you need to learn from a lesson of humility. Because if you are conducting yourself in such behavior, you are not helping the cause that you are trying to promote. It just doesn't work that way. You have to conduct yourself more professionally, and you need to speak in a manner that's going to resonate. And I will say that there were also people on the other side that I do not agree with at all either. People should not have been saying those things, but you were also the antagonizer in all of this. And there's no dispute to that. So what I would say to you is, please, in order to organize your cause better, please act more professionally.
Okay. May I
Okay.
continue now?
Yes.
As to your comment about the white supremacy thing, it had nothing to do with all of the Trump rallies. There's our organization, other organizations, that if you went to the prior one, you would know that the people were also yelling obscenities and flying certain flags and throwing things at us, and that is why we said what we said. And our people from other places also went out who had dealt with the same situations in their communities prior to. We didn't go to every Trump rally.
We're talking about our community.
We are talking about our community.
Yes.
Yes.
Did you have other comments, Teresa, that you wanted to focus on?
No, I just want to, I just wanted to touch on accountability really, from our people here and why we are saying that this is just now happening or this is just now coming to light when this has been a problem in our community for years and years and years. Anybody growing up here knows that.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of want to ask what we can do, what kind of plan of action we can make to fix the situation or to start rebuilding, because at this point, what we have done hasn't worked.
Yeah, I appreciate your comments. I know it takes a lot of guts to show up to a city council meeting. It can be an intimidating forum. You bring up some really good points, and I don't want you to feel like I'm trying to shame you by my next comments, but I do want to echo a lot of what Councilwoman Bagwell said. If you believe strongly in the democratic principle of freedom of speech, you have to respect that both sides have the ability to speak what they believe. And
Yes.
none of our rights are unfettered. And although you have freedom of speech as a constitutional right, there are constraints on that. And when it starts to incite violence, you're really walking a fine line. The videos were forwarded to the council, and I was really discouraged about both sides. It breaks my heart. You're right, this community has so much work to do. I don't think that's the way we do the work, Teresa. The restraint and patience and grace extended to you by our police officers was intense. I honestly cannot believe you were not arrested, but I think it's because they had such an extreme commitment to keeping the peace and not seeing that situation blow up more. The expletives spewed by you to families, it's no secret where I stand on this issue. Like maybe I am not the biggest fan of our president, but do you have any idea how traumatizing that is to those kids? And really to adults. Let's not do that. Let's engage a little bit more civilly. I have a lot of work to do on that too. We all feel strongly. We all have strong opinions. I just ask that in your desire to make our community more just, that it's okay to be angry, but it's not okay to hurt someone, as the wise sage Daniel Tiger says. So let's, I saw pushing on that. You could have been arrested for that. That's not going to help the cause. I encourage you to get involved with the Human Relations Commission and work with them to develop policy recommendations that can encourage more accountability from our police officers and that don't harm the cause, as Sarah mentioned. So again, I appreciate your comments. I agree racism is a horrible problem here, and it didn't just come in the last 4 years, and we have a lot of work, but we're not ever going to start to repair if it's just us versus them and screaming in each other's faces, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Teresa,
Yes.
you have a lot of I don't know how to accept it, but you need to work with, we as a lot of people, we understand what's going on, and I've been here a long time, and I know there is a lot of problems here, but we're starting to work it out. Let's work it out together, and use your enthusiasm to help us work this out together. I seen the video too, and I noticed a lot of the Trump side and what were coming back at you, and you're going back at both sides. We know this is happening, but we all live here together in Hutchinson, Kansas. Let's get along, Hutchinson, Kansas. And if you do have a problem, come to us too. We're your leaders, we're your representatives, and we will help you work it out. I will help you work it out. My phone number, call me, let's work it out. So let's put all that stuff towards positivity. I do realize, I watched your film, and I do realize there's a lot of people there that work from here.
Yeah.
And we need to work it out as people living here in Hutchinson, Kansas. And we don't, they're welcome here, and we want them to come here, but we need to work it out together as a team. We all live here. We're all going to see each other every day. You're going to see the police officers every day. I'm going to see the police officers. Our kids are going to play together. I did notice on the film that there's a lot of little kids standing out there that were out there. My God, that's not good for little kids to see. How are we going to build a good here in Hutchinson, Kansas, when the little kids have already got something to look at, that we're fighting with each other? We can't do that. We got to be more representative to our youth, and I love the youth, so we have to give a better representation. We all live here in Hutchinson, Kansas. Let's get together and make this Hutchinson great. We got other things to worry about. We got COVID, we got taxes, we got all kinds of stuff, street problems. We need to use what we have, and you have a great enthusiasm. Get all our enthusiasm together to be here in Hutchinson, Kansas, so we all can get along. I don't plan to move. I love Hutchinson, Kansas. Let's get along and work together. Come see me. We have problems. Let's work it out. Okay, let's work it out.
And
I approve, okay?
we mean that. We want you to come back. Lavella came a few months ago and she said, you're not doing enough to keep our parks safe in my neighborhood. She's been back and she's kept us accountable. And we want you to come back. We want you to keep us accountable and keep pushing for things that are going to make our community more just for everyone. So I just want you to know that and not feel discouraged by the comments you've had
Okay.
today. Are there other comments, or did you have additional remarks?
No, that was it.
Okay. Thank you
Thank you.
again for coming
Thank you.
today. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to address the council?
My name is Anthony Frischmeyer. I'm a Hutchinson resident. I work in the community, and I get a lot of phone calls in the community, especially after this weekend. Some positive, some negative, some pro it, some against it. One of the comments was that a lot of people of color in Hutchinson are fearful of violence after this election, and we're just curious if the city has a plan of action to combat that if that were to happen. Personally, I'm kind of worried about it as a parent of kids of color who have experienced racism in this community. I just want to make sure that we do have a plan of action just in case that does happen.
Well, Chief Hooper, do you have a moment to speak about preparations for the response to the election?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Mayor. We are aware, as I think people around the country are, that based on the election, it could cause some civil unrest, and we are aware of those potential threats to our community. We already have a strategic plan in place. We have extra officers that will be on through today and tomorrow, post-election results, and we have a quick reaction force on standby for a call-in, and so we do have a strategic plan in place to be able to handle any of those incidents that would occur in Hutchinson.
Okay. Thank you. Well, and hopefully it won't be necessary.
I agree.
It's my hope that we can come together as a community and start uniting a little bit better. Is there anyone else who would like to address the council?
I don't know that I was actually planning to. Jesse Juma, Hutchinson, Kansas. But just after some of the comments that were made today, I just want to reiterate that this council, the attorney, the city manager, all the council people, Chief Hooper, everybody has been cooperative since I met them from day one. And we don't agree. Yes, we all don't agree on everything, but I know that the disagreements that we've had and the similarities, the same things that we think about, we've always been able to work something out. The young lady was asking about where's the accountability from the police department and all that stuff, and things that have happened, and all this kind of stuff. And obviously, we have race issues that we need to address, but that's been with us forever, and it'll continue to be with us. But just to let you know, from day one since I've met Chief Hooper, he's always been on top, and he has made changes. There has been drops, in the data of bad things that happened in Hutchinson, Kansas, and he has made a difference since he's been here. He's just, I believe Hooper is a upright, standing guy, and he's always been able to work with us on everything. So, and the same thing goes with the people that I, associate with here on the city and the council. So I just want to say, yes, you're correct that if you have any issues, you can come to the city and they will help you out. And let's just do it in a civil manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. We can always certainly do better. And if the rest of
I
people.
agree, though, but I've lived in several different cities. I've lived in California, Mississippi, Tennessee. Chief Hooper is one of the best police chiefs that I've ever known. The culture and what he does here, his approach to policing is vastly different than in some of the larger cities. It's very personable. Just the interaction that his police officers have. I mean, we have something special here that we really shouldn't take for granted, because this police department and what Chief Hooper has turned it into, it is for the people. And I just really appreciate that. And it is something I've never seen before, and it's very admirable. So,
Yeah, thank you for that. I also wanted to mention that the governor has convened a task force on, a commission on different law enforcement strategies that can be utilized to help with racism. And those recommendations should be coming out by the end of the year. So I look forward to hearing those, and I'm sure Chief Hooper does as well. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to address the council? Okay, hearing none, please call the next item.
Item 5, consent agenda.
Discussion or a motion on the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Daveline,
Yes?
Soldner,
Yes.
Bagwell,
Oh, yes, sorry.
Garza,
Reading.
Yes.
Iris de Carvalho.
Yes, next item, please.
Item 6A, consider ordinance amending the comprehensive plan land use map designation for 419 North Poplar.
That's that real estate building, right?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so, the prevention.
Good morning, Amy Allison, Senior Planner.
Good morning.
Before you, we have a request to amend the comprehensive plan land use map and also the zoning designation for 419 North Poplar Street. Currently, the comprehensive plan land use map has it designated as public and institutional. The proposal is to amend it to commercial. The applicant is Jennifer Eicher of 401 South Poplar Street. The property is owned by Dana and Deborah Finnessy, and Mrs. Finnessy is in attendance today. So here's the property in question. You probably have seen it. It's along a popular route. It is a commercial building. Based off of my review of the property, it's been a commercial property since it was built back in the early 1920s. So, as you can see, the zoning has it designated as R5, which is our high-density residential district. To the best of my ability, I believe it was just a whole block that was designated that R5, not really paying attention to the type of use that was on the property at the time, which is why this request is before you today. The comprehensive plan land use map has it designated as public and institutional, most likely due to it being in close proximity to the church across the street.
Hold it, doesn't St. Teresa own the rest of that lot?
I believe so, yes. The vacant lot to the north.
Yeah, because they were gonna use it as a parking lot and have never finalized all those plans, evidently.
Yeah, I was looking into some of that history and it sounds about right. I do believe at one time the lot to the north and this lot were all one property, so that's probably another reason why it's designated the way it is.
Okay.
Alright, so here's some photographs of the property. It is currently, or was used as a real estate office. As you can see, it's built, like I said, it looked like it was built in the 1920s. So it's been on that parcel for a long period of time. Here is looking to the north, so you see the vacant property to the north. You can also see it is at a pretty busy intersection at 5th and Poplar Street. There's St. Teresa's to the east. A vacant, I believe it was a convenience store at one time to the south. And then there is a single family residential to the west. So the Planning Commission did review this case. They, on October 13th, 2020, no public comments were received. So the Planning Commission did approve recommendation to amend the comprehensive plan use map on a vote of 7-0. These are the three factors one must consider when amending the comprehensive plan use map. The first, that it's in conformance or to the spirit and intent of the 2017-2037 comprehensive plan. The development proposal must promote the health, safety, morals, order, convenience, property, and general welfare of the community. And then the development proposal must represent a wise and efficient use of public funds. Staff did provide a full analysis in the staff report, so if you have any questions about that, please let us know. But the Planning Commission also felt the same way. So before you, we do have a recommendation to approve the request. If you have any other questions for me or the property owner, we are happy to answer them, but that's the end of my presentation.
Amy, I've got kind of an off-related question to this. I reviewed all your material in revising the comp plan. And I guess from my perspective, this is a pretty straightforward case, and had no problem with it whatsoever. But I guess the deeper question is that are there ways procedurally and through the authority of home rule of the city that this whole process could be streamlined some way without the various layers of approval process and finally getting to the city council? That is there authority that could be vested in the planning commission and the planning department that can not necessarily circumvent the city council itself, but to streamline it in some ways? Because you guys put an enormous amount of time in on this little project, and I don't know if again statutorily whether or not any of this can be streamlined or not, but just kind of a question.
That's a good question. And a lot of procedures are established through the State Zoning Enabling Act. So it's founded at the state legislative level of how you can administer zoning at the local level. I mean, Paul can probably speak more to this too if he wants to, but.
I would just add one comment, Councilmember David, and I know you mean well. I know you mean well, and I understand wanting to simplify the process, but what you're proposing ends up being spot zoning, and that is forbidden by law.
And you have a whole nother layer in there because St. Teresa's is on the National Register, and you have to deal with all the bit about the environs, and it's complex.
My experience has been when these are challenged and they go for review, and this is a real clear-cut case, there's nobody really in opposition to it.
Yeah.
And if there ever was a model for something to be rubber stamped, this one might be it. But the reality is a lot of these do have aggrieved property owners in proximity. And then you have to review the golden factors and those other things to make sure that that's defendable when you're under legal challenge. And unfortunately, that's not I won't say unfortunately, it's probably pretty accurate and proper, that that's not a review process that can be laid just merely in the hands of city staff. The courts do ensure that it's a competent review of the legislative body, that they've empowered to do that. Been through a few of these that have gotten real ugly, and it would be nice to speed them up. But there are errors that are made from time to time that are caught during the public hearing process when these later come into review.
I rest my case.
Love the idea.
Good
Love
try,
the
John.
idea.
We applaud you for always trying to make things a little easier.
10 points for that.
Okay, does anyone have questions of the property owner or of Amy?
I think it's pretty straightforward. I mean, property's been like that for a while.
Is there a motion?
Well, let's see. I would move to accept the recommendation of the Planning Commission to approve the request for an amendment to the comprehensive land use map, section M 1.7B of the 2017-2037 comprehensive plan for Hutchinson, Kansas, based on a finding of conformance to the factors required for approval, adoption of an ordinance for publication and authorizing the mayor to sign.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Dave
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes.
Bagwell?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Pyrus de Carvalho?
Yes, next item, please.
Item 6B, consider ordinance rezoning property at 419 North Poplar Street.
All right, again, Amy Allison, Senior Planner. I'm just gonna speed through this next one because it's pretty much the same information. What you have before you is the request to amend the zoning piece of this from R5 high density to, that should say C4, special commercial district. Again, the applicant is Jennifer Eicher. The property owner is the Finney's. As you can see, it's currently zoned R5. It is also, I forgot to mention earlier, serviced by city utilities, so there's no issue there. The factors of approval for zoning amendment are 5 listed here. So the character of the neighborhood, current zoning uses of nearby properties, suitability of the property for the proposed use and, as zoned, extent of detrimental effects to nearby properties, length of the time the property has remained vacant, and then the next 3 is relative gain to the public health, safety, welfare, conformance of this request to the comprehensive plan, and then impact on public facilities and utilities. Again, staff provided an in-depth analysis on all those factors for you in the staff reports. If you have questions, please let me know once I'm done. The Planning Commission did review this case also on October 13th. No public comments were received, so the Planning Commission recommended approval of the zoning amendment on a vote of 7-0. So again, before you is a recommendation to approve case ZA 20-04.
Okay. Questions or a motion on this item?
Motion to accept the recommendation of the Planning Commission to approve the request to rezone 419 North Popular Street from R5 High Density Residential District to C4 Special Commercial District based upon due consideration of the factors shown. Adopt an ordinance for publication and authorize the mayor to sign.
I second that.
Okay, motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Dave-Line?
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes.
Bagwell?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Cyrus de Carvalho?
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 7A, consider Brookside Drive Trail Access Point improvements.
All right, good morning. I'm Justin Combs, Director of Parks and Facilities. All right, let me get my PowerPoint going here. So this item is for improvements to the trail access point at the end of Brookside Drive. So if you're not familiar with this area, all right. So this is Brookside Drive. You can see highlighted here. The property in blue
Is that
is
where you,
Bernard White
is
Park.
that where you go down the road and you have to go up that little
Yeah.
dirt hill
Yep,
to get
yeah.
on there?
Yep, I'll show
Okay.
you some better pictures of it here in just a second. But basically 5th Avenue where it turns into Nickerson, and then it crosses Cow Creek. So it's this trail access point up here on the Jim Martinez Trail at the end of Brookside Drive. Here's just a few photographs of the current condition. I don't think this was ever a planned access point. I think it was kind of an afterthought. The grades are terrible. It's half asphalt, half dirt. It's really in pretty rough shape. You can see this is all dirt here, and then from about where these structures are here, it's actually asphalt up there. Very steep, very narrow, very unsafe, especially for kids to try to ride their bike down or up that grade. Here it is looking down. So down here is Brookside. About right here you can see is where it converts from asphalt street to dirt and then back to asphalt. So we had the plans done by our engineering department. And I'll kind of explain what this means. So this shaded area, or this hashed area right here, is the existing asphalt trail section, and then down here you can see where it goes from asphalt to dirt. So this green trail then is an 8-foot wide concrete trail that connects the Jim Martinez Trail up here, a much more gentle slope all the way down, and will connect to the asphalt. It really just provides a much better access point. We're also going to clean up some of these trees that are along here. They're really just kind of overgrown and unsightly. The engineer's estimate for this project was $22,000. That was, again, by our engineering department. We received bids last week. As you can see, very, very tight bids, which is good. Low bid was Heben Associates, $14,705. I do want to point out, as it says below, that funding for this project is through the Pathways Grant through Blue Cross Blue Shield of Kansas. That's actually a much larger grant. The total grant amount is $81,390, and so this is just using a portion of that grant. This is an interesting grant because we actually only asked for $75,000, but they gave us $81,000, so that's always
That doesn't happen.
Can't argue. Yeah, it doesn't happen very often. So before I get into my recommendation, I do want to kind of sidetrack just a little bit and talk about what our plans are to do with the balance of this grant fund. So if this is approved for $14,000, there'll be a balance of approximately $67,000 from this grant. And what we'd like to do with it is improve Bernard White Park. So Creekside neighborhood is a neighborhood directly to the north of this area. Their top priority through the neighborhood work that Hutchinson is doing was to improve the trail access point. That was their top priority. Their second priority was to address the park. The park's in pretty rough shape. It's got a playground and a very, very small basketball court and a picnic table. That's basically it. So this is just one conceptual drawing we've done. We've shared these with Hutchinson. Hutchinson is going out and getting comments from the neighborhood so we can get maybe a little bit better direction of how we're going to improve this park. This particular concept really shows a very large basketball court. So majority of the park would be taken up by a basketball court. And then there's also a little shelter here, and then a small playground back behind. So that's just one concept we're working with. The second concept works with a little bit larger playground and gazebo or picnic shelter. And there's another view of that. So again, at this point, these are just concepts I just wanted to get it out in front of you since we were talking about the grant and was funding the trail project. So just kind of wanted to shine a little bit of light on this project, and we will be coming back when we get further down the road on this project. But just wanted to kind of highlight it that the additional grant funds will be used at Bernard White Park, and that falls very much in line with our master plan for Parks and Rec. This park is one of those parks that was rated very, very low. I don't think it was our lowest. I think it was in our bottom 2 or 3. So again, we're using that plan and investing wisely.
One comment. I don't live in that neighborhood, but I think we do kind of need more parks with like the basketball courts, because we have a lot of like these type of parks, which sometimes at nighttime we need something more for our teenagers to do.
I agree completely. I'm leaning towards this one. I like it's a unique court
because we have a lot of elementary kind of parks. We kind of lack in the entertainment for our teenage group that 10 through 14, very impressionable age. So I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I agree completely. This is why this was one of the options that I was working with the landscape architect on. This was something that I wanted to see was a little bit different spin on it.
Because I think you know me about parks. I think we have lots of little kid parks everywhere. But one of the main things that I always hear is teenagers don't have enough to do around here. And I think if we had the opportunity to tailor a park towards more of a older youth, it might be beneficial to the community. That's all I gotta say.
And that being said, how about pickleball?
Justin, do you have an update on pickleball while you're here? Do you want to?
I do. You want to do that now, or you want to?
Let's do the item, and then
right.
let's get through this item and.
Hey, one quick question: is there another round of grants for this pathway across Bush Hill?
There is. We were just awarded the second round. I don't know. Adam can maybe speak to that. I'm not part of that leadership committee.
Hello, Council. Adam Stewart, Neighborhood Development Coordinator with Hutchinson, and as well as the Pathways Phase 2 Grant Coordinator for Hill Reno County. We have been awarded, Hill has been awarded a second round of the Pathways Grant. That is going to be a 4-year project starting in 2021. We're currently working on our year 1 action plan for that. And we're still working out the details of what we're going to be pursuing with that. But the focus of it is on the social determinants of health, and especially focusing on healthy eating, active living, and tobacco cessation. So parks that will help residents be more active fit in with the mission of that grant. And I will say, in the neighborhood work with Creekside, the trailhead improvement and beautification aligns very closely with what the residents had discussed as priorities. Any other questions for me?
Thank you, Adam.
So with that, I do recommend we proceed with Hebe and Associates. We've had previous projects by Hebe. They've always done a great job. They're a local contractor right here in Hutch, for amount not to exceed $14,705.82.
I would move to approve the contract with Heave and Associates for the construction of the new trail access point on Brookside Drive for an amount not to exceed $14,705.82 and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Okay, is there further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Dayline?
Yes?
Soldner?
Yes.
Bagwell?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Tyros de Carvalho?
Yes. Okay, Justin, before we go to the next item, you want to fill everyone in on all the work?
Pickleball. So I guess we'll start back in the spring. Was approached by pickleball players if they could play at Fairgrounds Park. We allowed them to use temporary lines, so tape lines at Fairgrounds Park. There's been some conflict there between pickleball and tennis players, kind of gone back and forth. We initially heard it strictly from the pickleball players. Now we're hearing it from the tennis folks. So still kind of some ongoing conflict there. The solution that we've kind of developed is we're going to look at Rice Park, look at the tennis ground or the tennis courts at Rice Park. The surface really is not usable at this point. It's asphalt. It's cracked really bad. But we have the fence, we have the lights, we have really kind of basic infrastructure. And so the idea is we can actually go in and cut out the portion that would be the pickleball court and pour that using in-house labor into new concrete, surface those courts, and then use the asphalt as kind of the surrounding areas. So that's kind of the idea we have for pickleball. There's been some support in the community from the pickleball players for that. I think long term we want to separate pickleball from tennis. If we build permanent pickleball courts, people will play. It's a very, very popular, very quickly growing activity. It ranked very, very low on our master plan, but it's primarily because we didn't have it here and people don't know about it. Once we build courts, it will grow very fast. So the idea is that we could potentially build 3 to 4 courts at Rice Park over the winter months and hopefully have those ready for the spring. I have challenged the pickleball folks to help me fundraise for it. We do have some park reserves we can use for this project, but I've also challenged them to maybe help do some private fundraising for maybe one of the courts.
And during the winter months, will they have access to the sports arena courts?
Yes. Yeah, they are working with Hutch Rec, and I'm kind of facilitating those conversations between Hutch Rec. So they're throwing around ideas about a league and maybe even some drop-in play. We're even looking at possibly some drop-in at Memorial Hall in the evenings as well. So there's lots of ideas getting kind of thrown around on how we can accommodate the sport. So.
What's the complaints you have between the two? Pickles has more time on the court than tennis. What's the problem you have with it?
Oh, Steve, if you had any
much time do we
idea
have?
I don't want to know.
how much Justin has mediated
Okay.
between those groups, you would be very, very proud. I had no idea such passions existed.
Does it have to do with the lines and time?
Oh,
and
yes.
Everything in between?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I had some of the pickleball people reach out to me recently.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I told them I didn't know much about it because honestly I try to pick my fights and I can't be in every single one of them. So I kind of let, I believe, Jade and Justin head this one, and that's what I had told them.
Appreciate that.
So,
Yeah, we are making progress. It's been a challenge, that's for sure.
Yeah.
and how much is like you said that we would do it in-house, all the construction to the pickleball? Is that?
Yeah, I'm estimating each court will be around $3,000 to build.
Okay, so that's not terribly bad.
Yeah, and the reason we can do it so effectively from a cost standpoint is the fences are already there, the lighting's there. We may have to change the actual lighting heads or the fixtures on the light poles, but the poles are in good shape. So the expensive stuff is already done.
Okay.
So, the courts, luckily it's not very big.
Yeah.
We have staff that does a great
And
job.
they're
with concrete.
unusable at the moment.
Correct. Yeah,
So-
they're really shifted. There's a CIP item out there for 22 or 23 to rehab that into a multi-purpose court. So Maybe we take this opportunity to build a few pickleball courts and revisit that item. Maybe that becomes some additional courts, or maybe we look at a shelter or something to kind of promote that as a pickleball facility at that point.
Okay.
So, but that'd be a couple of years down the road. So.
All right, thank you.
Or we could discuss moving it up during the CIP conversations.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that,
Real
Justin.
quick, Jason, I got a question for you. I live in down the Elmdale vicinity, that court there, are we gonna do anything to that one? That one's not looking real good either, so.
So that court, we are waiting until the stormwater drainage project is completely designed, because there's a chance early on that those courts were going to go away, that that was going to be part of a detention basin as part of the improvements to Cow Creek. So we didn't want to invest in those courts and then a few years later have them taken out. So I believe we're far enough along on that design through engineering that we can kind of look at what the best use of that space is, whether it's tennis or maybe we improve that to basketball.
The only problem I have with that, I know that's coming, that drainage problem, but if we do something like that, we're gonna have to put a court for those people in the south end somewhere.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. I don't want that to go away and they have no tennis courts, they're just as important as everybody else.
Yep, absolutely.
Just keep that in mind if you would.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Item 7B, consider 2021 health and dental insurance renewal.
Good morning,
Hi.
Council. This is Tom Sanders. I'm the Human Resources Director, and pleased to be with you this morning to give you a kind of a quick update on how our medical and dental plans are doing, and also provide recommendations for our 2021 renewal. You guys might recall that this is the second year that we've been with our current vendor configuration, and very happy to report that in terms of overall administration and customer service, we continue to be just really happy with our current providers. In terms of the overall medical trending, our claims to date have really been running about 88.3% of what's expected. Our 1250 plan is running a little bit higher than that. It's 93.6, and our high deductible plan is a little lower than that. It's about 79.3. Overall, this is a little bit better trending than what we were experiencing last year. Part of that may be due to the COVID restrictions that were in place earlier in the year for elective procedures. We saw a little bit of a dip there, but not a huge one. So hard to know if that's again a COVID-related issue or not. We've also had a pretty good year in terms of the high-risk claimants and our stop loss. We've not had any of our members hit stop loss this year, which is probably the first time that's happened in, probably 2 or 3 years. Still got some time left in this year, so don't want to jinx myself on that. But also just the number of employees or members that are approaching stop loss is significantly less than what it's been in years past too. So overall, that's a pretty good trend. And you might recall last year we made a decision to increase our individual stop loss limit from $100,000 to $125,000, and that was primarily to get rid of, if you will, about $250,000 of potential risk there with the number of employees that had been lasered by our stop loss carrier at that time. So we got rid of that, but also since we've had a good stop loss year, we've probably saved about right around $80,000 in premium savings too. So every little bit helps. In terms of the renewal, our actuaries at USI, they tend to look at about 24 months of claims data, and they also kind of calculate in the prescription rebate program, which in 2020 we should get about $120,000 back in those rebates. And then, of course, they look at industry projections for medical inflation and prescription inflation and that kind of thing. And again, that market's a little bit unsettled right now because of COVID, but generally speaking, it's expected to trend about 5 to 9% next year. So they, of course, also look at our stop loss carrier and our third-party administrator contracts for reasonableness. And even though we've had a pretty good year with stop loss, our stop loss premiums will go up about 7% next year. And then our third-party administrator costs, which is Meritain, those are only going to go up about 2%, which we're super happy with that. So
So taking all those factors into account, they're recommending next year that our overall funding go up 5%. That's really below trend for most employers of our size here in the Midwest, and it also compares to 6.6% that went up for 2020, and then you might recall we had that very rare event back in the year before in 2019 where we actually had a decrease of 3.8. So our overall 3-year trend is looking really pretty good. But given the claims trending differences between our two plan options, I should say, the 1250 plan, we're recommending that it go up by 5.25%, and our high deductible plan going up by 4%. And then last but not least, we also, as kind of part of this process, like to look at our plan design and how it's comparing to the market. And based on that review, we really didn't see any strong case to be made for making any kind of plan changes next year for either plan. Switching over to dental, again, this is our second year with Delta Dental, and that program also continues to function very smoothly. Claims are trending slightly below expected, but our actuaries really don't expect much in the way of inflation, so they're pretty good with having everything stay as is, as a 0% increase. And that's with the caveat that the plan stays the same, which is what we're recommending. And then you might recall last year we had, again, a reduction in premiums by 5.1% for that program. In terms of the overall budget funding for 2021, during the budget process, there was a 2% growth plugged in as part of that process. That 3% difference between what was budgeted and what's actually recommended as 5% equates to about for the medical plan, about a $90,000 difference. The dental program is far less expensive for the city, so that 2% gain that we have there by leaving those premiums flat really only equates to a little over $3,000, so not a huge savings there. So that leaves us kind of a net funding gap of about $87,000 for next year. As you probably recall, in years past, we have, when we run into this situation, we have tapped into our reserves in our Fund 32 account, which is our designated health and dental fund. Last year, for example, I think we were planning on doing that for this year, and to the tune of I think about $214,000. But since our claims have been so good, we're not even going to touch that. So again, even though we're saying, hey, we may need to tap into that, it's been very rare that we've actually had to. So staff is recommending that we use those funds to really cover that gap if they actually materialize, and that's really a worst case scenario situation. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Tom, periodically you will brief us on the topic of the dental and health rates for the coming year. Mm-hmm. But refresh my memory a little bit on terms of how the Fund 32 works, how we build those reserves,
sure,
and exactly what those reserve balances are.
Yeah, so for many, many years, I don't know when exactly it got established, but it was way before I started. I think it probably may have happened when we went self-insured, probably about 20, 25 years ago. The city set up a special designated fund that is a standalone fund, and the funds that flow into it, which come from the employer, the city, which we make up probably about 80% of all the contributions to go into that fund. And the other 20% comes from employee contributions premiums. That's how our plans are funded. And when you go through every year when you're self-funded, you're trying to project what you think your claims are going to be, and you have stop-loss insurance in place to make sure that your maximum liability doesn't exceed a certain amount. And we have that both on the individual level, and we have it on the just total plan or the aggregate costs. So we know the worst-case scenario what our claims liability will be. When we have years, and most of the years we do, where we don't ever really hit that maximum liability, those excess reserves stay in Fund 32, and they're no longer needed to pay claims, and so they're unencumbered. And we use those monies to do several things, like the year we're going into, we may use those monies to kind of make up that funding gap that we may have between budgeted and what we actually experience. But we also use it for things like our employee assistance program, some of the wellness related things that we do, like the flu shot vaccination program, you know, paying the fees for our benefits consultants comes out of that fund. The ACA fees that's is imposed on self-insured plans, we pay for those fees to the federal government out of that program. So it's a nice fund to have so it gives us the cushion that we can fund some other things, but also it stays basically designated towards employee-related benefits.
So if you'd go back 5 years, Tom, what would that fund balance have been then versus what it might be today?
It's stayed pretty steady and probably grown a little bit. I was talking with finance yesterday, and the actual fund balance as of today is, let's see here, it's about 3.3 million, and about half of that, I would say, is encumbered and is in place to pay claims that are going to happen this year and also the 12-month prior, because, you know, billing being what it is, there's oftentimes a time lag there. So, and then the ERISA standards is you want to have at least 6 months of expected claims in reserve. So, you know, it's not all just there. That 3.3 is a huge number, obviously, but it's a good chunk of it is just waiting to be spent. So.
And you obviously, it's your intent to protect this encumbered fund.
Yes, yeah.
Completely.
Yeah, absolutely. We try to keep a nice, healthy balance in there, and we have. And that's one of the beauties of being self-insured is when you have good years where you don't spend as much as what you thought you were going to spend, instead of that money going to the insurance company, like in a fully insured plan,
right,
we get to keep it.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Mr. Sanders, this is not at you, but this is from being an employee. We're not giving our employees that I know in 2021, we're holding our raises the same. But we expect our employees to take up 5% or 4% increase. Is that? And that's what I'm going to hear from. They don't get no raises in 21, but they still got to pay more out for insurance. I know like you just said right now, it's to cover, am I right? It's to cover what could happen in 21, that's right?
Yep.
So that bothers me a little bit because it seems that we always want to, they're going to tell me we're paying the insurance off the employees' backs.
Yeah.
So
and I understand that perspective, but the reality of it all is when you do the math, the city is contributing in aggregate 80 of all the premiums that are paid to fund our plan. We're paying 80% of that. So we're the lion's share of the cost increases is falling on the city as the employer. And employees, yeah, I mean, nobody likes increases for sure, but you know, even with this 5% increase that we're looking at this coming year, somebody has full family coverage. I mean, they're looking about a $25 a month increase, so it's not humongous dollars. If you're on employee only coverage, you're looking at a $3 a month increase. So, and you know, in terms of the raises piece, you know, again, nothing was budgeted. I mean, I think there were some things that we kind of hope we can maybe do later in the year, depending on how things turn out. You know, we've got that contingency clause in our contracts, you know, and we'll see, you know, but again, it's all funding priorities. And especially this year, I don't think anybody knows where we're going to necessarily land.
Okay.
So.
What would be the cost to absorb those premium increases across the city? Would that be the 90,000 or?
Yeah, that would, let's see, I'd have to see if I can do some quick math in my head. So, I'd hate to give you a number just off the spot, but it's probably somewhere around that ballpark.
Okay.
But I could certainly run the numbers and let you know. It wouldn't take a lot to do, so.
Well, my thoughts are that if we have 3.3 million in the reserves and 1.6 of those are encumbered, we need 6 months in reserves. What is 6 months? 800,000?
No, it's about 1.5.
Oh, so we're
Yeah.
right there. We don't, we can't
Yep.
really absorb that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yep.
Well, I would hope that if we do end up with better revenues than we anticipated, that we can't find a way to, maybe that we could find a way to compensate employees for that difference, because I share your concern, Steve. I know it's a small amount, but it's not a small amount to some families.
Why don't we go half?
$25 is a lot.
When we go half
per
and half,
family.
Yeah.
we sort half, we sort half.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think, you know, I think Tom made a recommendation based on uncertainty, and that maybe we should go with that recommendation and then see where we're at once we're more certain about revenues, and just ask the staff to trust that we're gonna try to make them whole if we have the ability to. I mean, that's what I would be comfortable with.
Have we ever reduced our medical? Because I know that my company actually, ours is cheaper this next coming up year than it was in previous years. Because whenever we don't use a lot, like as a collective whole, nobody's really gotten sick or gotten cancer, and then so they get the premium at a better rate. I understand we're self-funded, which means we just basically contract out the facilitating of the and not the actual cash reserves. But do we ever reduce it if we get a better if we hadn't paid out as much? Do we trickle that down back to our employees, is what I'm saying, like some other companies do when they go to the negotiating table and say, look, we've paid this much out and we've only used this much. They get a better deal for that year, and then they give that deal back to their employees by reducing the healthcare benefit contributions. Is that something that we've done in the past? Have we historically ever fluctuated up and down, or we've always only gone up, is my question.
Only since I've been here, and I don't think it's really happened even prior to, me being here, because, health insurance is kind of one of those things. It's like almost the sun coming up in the morning. It's going to go up the next year. It's just a matter of how much. But there has been one year, which was, again, 2019, where we actually did reduce premium costs. So again, that's part of the whole actuarial process that USI does for us, is they look at our claims, they balance all that out, they look at they do a really, really good job of squeezing out any excess stuff that we don't need, that we can self-insure on. Like, for example, like what changes we made last year with stop loss, that's $80,000 to the good, plus a huge amount of potential liability that we got rid of. But at the end of the day, we rely on their numbers and their experts to really say, hey, listen, this is where you guys need to fund to. So,
If the council would like to see this returned, we could bring it back and show the cost, the expense associated with the one-time absorption. It seems like there might be an appetite for that discussion going forward. Sometimes cities do that. There is a risk in doing that every year, of course, because it depletes the purpose of the fund. But also it instills some level of confidence in negotiations that it's going to happen and be a reoccurring activity of the governing body every year, when in fact no business can truly afford that.
Yeah.
So it would definitely need to be looked upon as being kind of a one-time deal, but if we wanted to have that discussion, we could bring it back and show you what those costs would be.
Well, I think that, my concern is not that we absorb it every year, it's that we often, almost always give raises, and then this year, since we didn't, that I would be interested in finding a way to make that happen, because there are no raises.
So would I.
Yeah,
I'm
and
gonna
again,
go with these guys over here.
yeah, in terms of the raises piece, I really hope that we can end up doing something there too. I really, really do. Or I wouldn't have brought to you guys the whole concept of, hey, let's wait and see and see if we can come back and renegotiate.
So there's no
yeah.
way to keep.
Yeah.
Is there, if I'm getting this right, he can bring it back and you can kind of show us what if we kept it level?
Yeah,
what that would look like?
Yeah, yep. That's a relatively easy calculation that we could do. So.
Tom brought that back within, 30, 45 days, that would still give us time to be nimble on our feet, I think, but would still be.
Yeah, if we're looking at, what the city extra cost would be for, if we just left premiums flat, but still did the cost projection of overall 5% funding to the plan. Right now, just roughly here, we spend, again, overall, we're 80% of the funds that are going into that thing that come from the city, and that equates to $2.6 million this year. If everything continues to go as projected for the rest of the year. So, add 5% on that, plus the other 20%, and that's gonna be your number.
I like to see us do that personally.
Yep. It won't take me long to make that calculation. I mean, I don't need 45 days or whatever. It's,
So it could come back at the next meeting.
yeah. The one thing I would ask is, we can certainly come back and reconsider that, but we are up against the wall in terms of open enrollment timeline, and so,
okay.
Yeah, what's your deadline there?
yeah, so we're actually planning to open that up on Thursday.
Oh, I see.
So,
Okay.
I see. Okay.
So, which is not to say we couldn't, after open enrollment's done, reopen it. I mean, we could say, hey, we told you that the premiums are X, they're now gonna be, I doubt we get any complaints if the premiums are less. Let's just put it that way.
Probably not.
So,
you're saying you could get back to us by the 16th?
yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Well, we gotta have a motion, or what we gonna do, Mayor?
I think we can just table it, can't we?
yeah. Again, what I would, if I could make a recommendation, is let us go ahead and proceed with open enrollment, get people,
Sure.
get that piece of it going, because data has to start flowing to our vendors and all that kind of good stuff. Otherwise, it's just mass chaos, which I know nobody wants. But again, just with the understanding that we can come back and give you what that dollar amount would be, and then you guys can say thumbs up or thumbs down, and then we can make those adjustments.
Thank you so much, Tom. That's.
Wait a minute, Tom. As a practical matter, don't you really need the council to approve this motion so that it can come back and be amended?
Yeah, that's probably
Okay.
a better approach, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is there a motion to?
Yeah, I
Approve
will
it with
move to
amendment.
approve the proposed 2021 health and dental programs and authorize the staff to execute the group health and dental insurance plan contracts for the 2021 plan year.
Do you have to put anything in there to say that we can come back and amend it, or just the standard way of doing it?
You can always take council action to amend it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Okay, please call the roll.
Dayline,
Yes?
Soldner.
Yes.
Bagwell,
Yes.
Garza,
Yes.
Pyros de Carvalho.
Yes, next item, please.
Item 8, report of city officials.
All right, you're up, Nancy.
Nothing.
John, what do you have?
Couple things, as far as looking at maybe some future agenda items. I don't want to get ahead of it, and I get a little bit anxious, but since we're particularly talking about health insurance and so on whether or not perhaps at our December 15th meeting, and whether or not we could ask Jeff, you and Angela to perhaps give us a financial analysis of where you all believe we're going to be at year end. I know there's some projections and there's some trends in this that we haven't had a visit in a few months about where our year-ending budget may land. And it may be something that has to be pushed back into 2021, but I'd like to see something.
I don't think it would take that long, and I know Angela's on top of that.
Okay.
She provides reporting to me frequently that kind of gives a pulse point, but I think we're probably going to be able to present some pretty good information to you. I don't think 12/15 would be a problem,
Okay.
provided we have everybody here and we're COVID-free.
Yeah,
That
sure.
more than anything has
Yeah.
been the issue lately.
I understand. And the other item, and this may be able to wait until the first of the year, but one of the high-profile issues that several of us have dealt with since we've been on the city council has been the stormwater utility fund. And I'm wondering if it would be appropriate, either through our internal public works department or even through our consultant, to have the consultant come and give us an update as to the status of the stormwater Cow Creek project itself. And I don't know how many visuals there might be in that, but it's certainly it's been a very, very high-profile project that we've dealt with, and this is supposedly our anchor project.
Yeah.
And wondered if an update and a review of that project would be appropriate.
If it pleases the governing body, we're happy to do it. Yeah, that
Okay.
shouldn't be a problem.
Good
All right.
point.
Yeah.
Very good. So
Thank you.
sometime in the
Yeah.
next 60 days, perhaps.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
That will not be a problem.
Thank you.
Anything else?
That's all.
Okay. Steve, do you have anything?
Yes, I'd like to say that we all live here in Hutch, and make sure you vote. That's very important to our democracy. Make sure everybody gets out there and votes. And let's all take care of each other and try to get along. We all live in this great city of Hutchinson. Let's get together. We're all brothers and sisters. And let's work together and get things accomplished in Hutch. We can. This is a great city, and I love this city. So let's all work together and pray for each other. That's all.
Okay. Thank you. Sarah, what do you have?
My message is get out there and vote. Today's a big election day. It's a big part of the fabric of our nation, and it's very important. And I just encourage everybody that no matter what the results are, that we still just come together and stay civil. And another note, why I have
Justin?
and the police chief. Actually, it's a question for both you guys. I know we talked earlier about parks and how I kind of would like to see, because we have a lot of elementary style parks, right? You know me, I'm like, why do we keep having so many parks everywhere? We stretch it thin. And I know you wanted to do basketball, but what about miniature, like areas where people can skateboard as well next to those? Like, where it has like a little hill or a little
Yeah.
grinding pad.
Yeah, so
Or-
that is, I don't know that I have immediate plans for that, but that is definitely something that came out through our master plan process is we're kind of missing the kids that are too old to play on a playground, but not old enough to go out and drive and do their own thing.
Yeah.
And so really the recommendation was to look into those adventure type sports. And the opportunity I see for that in the near future is the Fun Valley Water Slide site. So there are some opportunities there, as well as incorporating that when we do these park renovations. It maybe it's a smaller version
Because
of a skate park.
like longboarding's really in right now,
Yeah.
and skateboarding.
Longboarding's challenging because we don't have the terrain
Yeah.
here, but things like skateboards.
But if we had like
would be
little
nice.
hills
Yeah.
and
Yep.
just like not a full blown skate park, but like just little miniature features, because when I was a kid, people would just make like a box, that they
Yeah.
would drag around with them that way they could go onto the box, off of the box, have a rail, and it'd be amazed at just something so small that's just there. And then that way they're not, I know we don't have it too bad here about, going on parking lots and damaging commercial business areas, but it is actually becoming, I have several skateboarders around my neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so I was just wondering about having that ability. Have you ever looked at any models of not full-blown skate parks, but like miniature skating?
It's a great idea, and I think we've got several opportunities coming up. Farmington Park, even Bernard White Park. We haven't done anything there yet. We just have those two concepts. So
Okay.
I was one of those kids that built jumps in my front yard. I was more BMX and skate.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely understand where you're coming from. I think it's a great point. Something that would be very easy to add
Yeah.
I've seen things like called skatable art, so it looks like a piece of art, but it's actually designed to be
Yeah.
used on a skateboard as well. So yeah, that's a great
Or
point.
bikes, you know,
Yeah.
they have,
Yep,
you have
absolutely.
combination,
Yep.
things that can be done. And it doesn't even have to be like a full-blown skate park, just
Right.
a couple little things can keep someone entertained.
Yeah, one or two small elements, yeah. It's a
Uh-huh.
great idea, yep.
Okay, that's all I want to
All
talk
right, thank
about.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, did you have other items, Sarah?
No, that's it. Just go
Okay.
out and vote.
Yes, absolutely. As a reminder, polls are open until 7 p.m. tonight. I had just a few things. One is the COVID cutoff. I don't know if you all have heard about this.
Oh,
This-
yes.
This is something that health officials, it's a challenge health officials have issued to the community, and it begins tomorrow, so November 4th until November 13th. It's a 10-day challenge to step up efforts to limit your social contact. If you can take meetings at home, if you can get takeout from restaurants, anything you can do to limit contact with others to try to mitigate the spread. Our intensive care unit is under some stress at Hutch Regional, and we need to find a way to make sure people aren't overburdening our healthcare system, and we want to keep people healthy and
I know.
safe and alive.
I know. I was going to reach out to have during the lockdowns and the whole flatten the curve period. Does any do you have information on how much capacity, like, did we during the hospital's time that we've given them by, you know, I mean, businesses have bought, did they increase COVID capacity during that time?
They did. Oh, so what has resulted now is not that we don't have bed capacity, it's that we don't have healthcare staff capacity. And so it's taking more staff to care for just even one really
Didn't
bad patient.
Yeah, didn't they cut some of their staff?
They at one point had cut staff on elective procedures, but I think people are back. They're still doing those. But this is more, I think it's emergency room or intensive care staff that they're really struggling with, and Wichita's really struggling with. And I think the city manager could speak a lot more elegantly about those issues.
I doubt it, Mayor. You covered that pretty succinctly.
Okay.
Thank you.
But encouraging
just
everyone to
hoping
do
that,
their
you know,
part.
We shut down, locked down, we lost some businesses.
Yeah.
You know, to flatten the curve, to give the hospitals the ability. So I was just making sure as a governing body that, you know, did our hospitals,
React.
Did they
Yeah.
increase their capability? 'Cause
And during that time, they actually established a separate unit, a respiratory unit where people could come in and get tested. So I know that there were some pretty major shifts on their behalf. And, you know, we're a lot smarter now, and we don't have to paint with such a broad policy brush, thank heavens, because I don't think our economy could handle it.
Yeah.
But if we're all just really smart and wear masks and try to support local businesses in a way that's safe for everybody, then hopefully we'll get this under control and get kids back in school full time. So that was one thing I had. Also wanted to mention that I did see some chatter on social media about the toy run, and there was some concern that would not be able to take place this year. Reached out to the health department, and those organizers also have had several meetings, and the health department has signed off on that with some recommendations to discourage gathering and viewing, you know, in groups. So I believe that permit has been issued by the city. So want to do,
Not just yet. They have
Pending.
applied.
but it will be. So the toy run will happen, and please watch it from your car, not with a group of friends, so that we can be glad that we made concessions to make that happen. And then the last thing I had is, you know, we've spoken several times about the possibility of getting together for strategic planning. And I know that that's been put on the back burner because we didn't know where we would be revenue-wise, but would really like to see a consultant selected and hopefully get that done by the end of the year. Is that something that you think is doable? Or a bad idea?
I've run into some scheduling issues with discussions with one or two of them.
Okay.
One just stopped doing it altogether, just flat out won't do it right now because of COVID.
That makes sense.
So I think what we will likely find is that the higher price option ones will probably still entertain the possibility of being profit. profit motive there a little bit, they'll probably go ahead and continue with that offering. I'm happy to tee that up. I think it would be valuable for us. I agree, Mayor. I can bring that back so we can have a discussion on it as to who we may want to select on that. The one that I was hopeful that we could bring in is a local person out of Lawrence, and unfortunately, that's not an option at this point due to some of the things that I've discussed.
That's a bummer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to, I feel like we're constantly lobbing priorities back and forth amongst each other, which is fine. But it's not, like, we need to kind of get on the same page about what priorities are for next year. So yeah, I would like to see that happen. That's all I have. Over to
Okay.
you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Is it my turn, Mayor? It looks like
Uh-huh,
it is.
yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, on the COVID awareness issue, community-wise, yeah, it's my understanding that we are not affiliated with the hospital, so this information needs to be verified, but it is my understanding that they're diverting. Wichita is diverting. I checked with where I came from, they're diverting. This is a pretty serious issue, and it's going to ramp up and probably get a little worse, guys. So any precautions you can take is well warranted, and all of us right now wearing masks. We got plexiglass around us. Might as well put us in chicken cages. I think we're doing all that we can. I know that some of our future work sessions are going to be Zoom, so we're trying to limit exposures here to you all and to the staff to participate in the process. So we'll continue with that effort. Also, I'd like to thank the police chief. I watched those videos too that we discussed earlier in the meeting, and they were
Turn your mic off so it doesn't.
they were
Just got it.
isn't technology wonderful? Happens to me all the time, Steve.
Steve wanted to add a little music, a little
Anyway,
disco.
thank you, Chief, for
Sorry.
being there. I noticed that you were working that event personally, and I found value in reviewing those videos. Spent most of the evening last night doing that, and I am impressed with our law enforcement and how they handled that situation as well, Mayor. I think arrests could have occurred, no question about it. Restraint and vigilance was certainly utilized that day on the part of our staff, so I greatly appreciate that. Thank you. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Okay. How long would you like to go into executive session?
I think we're a 20-minute minimum.
We always go past it. Let's try 30.
Okay. Should we do it till 11?
Yeah.
Okay. Could I have a motion to recess?
We'll move to recess into executive session pursuant to the personnel matters of non-elected personnel, exception KSA 754319B1, in order to discuss performance of an employee. The open meeting to resume in the city council chamber at 11 o'clock.
Second.
Okay, please call the roll.
Dayline?
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes.
Bagwell?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Pyrus de Carvalho?
Yes.